Great, thank you for this. Okay, so let's resume the grid jump submission lecture, and I can see that many people are asking questions on the live doc, so this is great, thanks. So then we will help you accordingly, and let's switch to the part now of monitoring jobs. So Ken.
Okay, so oh, what was I going to say? Right, so if you didn't catch at the end during the break, I made a comment that I will repeat now, just in case everybody didn't hear it. If you remember the initial part where we were talking about requiring singularity and what have you, that particular piece of the requirement, the target has singularity, is going to become part of the default job sub requirements pretty soon. It may take a few more weeks, but at that point, you will not have to explicitly call that anymore. It will be included in the default unless you tell it you don't care, basically. But you would only not care if you were like testing a site or something. So. All right. So back to monitoring. Also, one other thing I should have mentioned I didn't put on here, but I'm going to just say it anyway. If you look at the run May21 tutorial SH, the thing that's actually running on the worker, right? This guy here. It runs Larsoft on 2 events on a specific file. Now, I made sure before that that file was staged in Tcache. So that's why I didn't say to do that here. But, right, in general, we should not assume that. So for example, I would come back here and I can do samweb pre-stage file. If you're doing a single file, you can do pre-stage file. If you're doing a full data set.
And could you zoom a tiny bit on the terminal, please? It's a bit.
How's that?
Thank you. Great.
Right. So there's pre-stage file, and then there's a pre-stage data set. So for a single file, you do this, and I already forgot what the name of it is. There it is. This is a prod2 file, but you know, in general, please, if you're doing proto analysis, switch to prod4. But I just left this because it does the same thing. So I'm going to go samweb pre-stage file and this file. And like I said, if you had a full data set you were doing, you would do pre-stage data set. I thought you could pre-stage a single file. Maybe not. I thought you could. Huh. The other way you can do it, there is when you set up DUNE2PC, you get a utility called cache state.py. Right? We went over this yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I think. State.py, and then you give -p. That will tell it if it's not already staged, do the pre-staging. Of course, in this case, it already was, so it exits immediately. Okay, so just wanted to make that point clear. All right, so now on to the fun time with monitoring. So all from the monitoring stuff, you have to log in to your services password. So same thing you use for the wiki and all that good stuff, not your Kerberos password. As an aside, while we're waiting for this to load, it is technically a security violation at Fermilab if you make the 2 passwords the same. I mean, no one looks over your shoulder to check, but don't do it. Okay, so the first link we're going to look at, this is the experiment batch details link, and you can choose an experiment if you want. So whenever this loads, we can get an idea of what DUNE is doing overall. There we go. Okay, so the short answer is not very much. We have a few people here. Got a lot of held jobs, but only what? I bet less, what, 100 some running jobs? That's actually quite small. But then you can go back in time, right? On all these monitoring pages, in the upper right is the time picker. So if you go back like last 30 days or something, then there would be more activity. Yeah, so there you go. And then the horizontal line here, that is the quota we had talked about, right? For Fairmay grids, this is on-site. This is off-site. As you see, on-site is generally much higher than off-site, but there's really no reason not to use off-site anymore. So that's just to give you a flavor for, if you're wondering, well, why haven't more of my jobs started yet, right? You can check here and, maybe Dune's just really busy. So. Now, each of us also has our own personal monitoring page called user batch details. So here's mine. You can choose your own username. And okay, last 24 hours, as you see, I have not personally been doing very much either, just running these tests. So at the moment, I've got nothing. Now my efficiency is quite low, but that's again just because the job is pretty short. We're only running 2 events, right? These tests, or the submission test Singularity. The first one we ran didn't actually run anything; it just kind of poked around. So now for longer jobs and more realistic jobs, yes, some of you may have in the past gotten emails about efficiency policy violations. We do take that seriously, and following the best practices helps a lot with that kind of a thing. Also, we saw earlier, right, on the first page, there's a lot of held jobs. You can also go to this page. Why are my jobs held? So I don't know if Dune Pro has any held. There might be, there's a couple. Again, time window upper right. And what this will do, it gives you the hold reason code and the hold reason subcode. These are internal Condor things. Basically, hold reason code 1 is someone manually held it. Hold reason code 26 or 34, which is the vast majority of things you will see, just mean you exceeded one of your resource requests, memory, disk, runtime, whatever. And then down here, it'll show you the codes, and then it will spit out a text reason. So for example, this one, hold reason code 8. Okay, it ran over time. And this one went over memory. Any questions on that?
Any thumbs up?
Okay, there. Okay, so the other thing, you can also, instead of fetching your logs on the command line, which is certainly a fine thing to do as well, you can actually also view these on the monitoring pages. But if you want to just fetch it in the command line, you would run jobs with fetch log here, obviously substitute in your own ID number. What it will do by default is it will just download a tarball. I usually use this unzip dir option, then we'll automatically unwind the tarball into whatever directory you tell it. And then you can look at the standard out and the standard error. So let's, just for example here, let's look at one of my jobs here. I can go up to view. Right, so here it tells you what it requested. Here's the timeline of what it did. This one's not very interesting because it was a simple test job. Then you click Fuse Sandbox Files, the link here. And then this will give you all of your logs. Now, it may take a while to load if this was a big submission, if you had thousands of jobs in it. This one was fast, only one. So standard out will go to the dot out. Standard error will go to the dot error unless you specifically redirect them. But let's look at the dot out. Now, here we go. So as we saw in the script, right, I print out where I'm running, print out the proxy. Remember, I dumped the environment, but I redirected that to that other log file. That's why you don't see it here. Then I print out the Linux release, Scientific Linux 9, just like I expected from the Singularity image. So that's good. I print out the processes that are running. Typically, when you're running in Singularity, you have your own set of processes, at least the way we do it. So you'll notice the first process ID is 1, which of course, yeah, when you're on a DUNE GPVM machine or something, right, it's never 1. But this is kind of the way Singularity works in this case. But notice also, look at the UID here, right? It's not kherner, it's finalgrid, right? So because I'm running on some site and they just map the local account to basically everybody gets mapped to the same local account. But the nice thing about Singularity is you then can't jump out and look at other people's jobs and or steal their credentials, right? You can only see your piece. All right, any questions on that? So I encourage you to both fetch your logs by hand on the command line for one of your test jobs and try to navigate to your FIFEMON pages and find them and look there. So quiz number 2. All of this stuff for the second job, the one that runs Larsoft with the tarball, not the Singularity one, but the second job, you should be able to answer all of these questions by looking at the .out and the .error files. Okay, cool. I also want to draw your attention to Kibana, which is another monitoring tool. Then we'll do review of best practices, and then I think we should stop by 9:30, right?
Sorry, what? We stop at?
I'm asking.
We stop in 26 minutes. Oh, sorry, 36 minutes. So.
Oh, I have till 10.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I had only till 9:30.
Actually,
so
as
I was going a little fast there intentionally.
It's okay. If you go on the tab on the before last tab on the right for you, great job. The live documents. There's some people struggling to. So yes, you scroll down a bit. Some people struggling. I will highlight it. It's at the bottom of your screen. I don't have the May-tutorial directory, and then cannot create regular file. And then an interesting question is, what if you submit a job with an error? Is there a way to interrupt a running job or unstage it? I can write down what you say.
Oh yeah, I will also demo it right now. So, okay, I do not know what to tell you on the green question other than you may have to make, it's probably complaining, you have to make the May 2021, there we go, tutorial directory manually. Maybe you didn't do that yet, I don't know. But okay, so yes, if you submit a job, as I will do right now, and I go, there it goes, and I go, oh my God, I submitted with the wrong parameter, or oh, it's the wrong tar file. What do I do? So I can remove, release, hold jobs. So let's say I want to remove this job. I do obsub rm job ID equals, and then I just take this guy. and it's gone. I can also, let's say I submit and I say, actually, I don't want that to run just yet for some reason. I can hold the job too. So I can do job sub hold this. Oh, forgot the job ID equals. There we go. Okay, so now it's held. And if I want to look at the status of jobs, I can do job sub Q. Now this will show you all of the DUNE jobs, which you may not want. So I'll put myself here. Then the user tag will show you only your jobs. So there's that job, and as we see, it's held. If I want to let it go again, then I do job sub release. Same thing, job ID equals whatever. Okay, now it'll run again. Now, what if I had a bunch of jobs? And I certainly don't want to type this 100 times. You can also do, for example, job sub RM. You could do, for example, username. And of course, you can only do this on your own jobs, obviously. But so this will remove all jobs that I have, regardless of state. Now I only had one, right? And it will go and see it goes through all 3 of the job sub schedules. And you can do job sub hold and etc. on that. Then you can do more complicated things too. What if I only wanted to release, or I only want to remove jobs owned by me that were already held and had requested more than 5,000 megabytes of memory or some such complicated thing? You can do a constraint, and this is in HT Condor style. So I can do owner equals, and that's just who's running the job. And job status is what is the state of the job. The ones you care about, 1 is idle, 2 is running, 5 is held. So I want only my held jobs. And let's say, what did I say? Oh, request memory above 5,000. So when you do the -- memory option, that sets the request memory class head. So I can do something like this. And a number of other arbitrarily complicated things. But now this won't do anything, right? Because I don't have any jobs like that. And sure enough, as it tells you, okay, 0, because it didn't find any. But that's just a flavor of what is possible. Now, if you're submitting through POMs, you can also do this for various submissions through the web GUI. You can release and remove and stuff. Okay. Good. All right, where was I? Yeah, so work on the quiz for the submission that we did up here, this one. And then we come to, by far, the most important part of the talk. So if you remember nothing.
I would like to ask the people regarding the quiz if they're okay or not, or if they want we spend more time on this. if, let's say, they don't understand stuff. And so first, I want to thank the people who ask questions on the live doc. This is great because at least we know where you are and we can polish also the tutorial. So that's good. Can people send thumbs up if you want to directly go to the brief review of best practices, or you're still not so clear on some stuff above and you prefer we go back to this a bit? So please let us know where you are. If you're stuck, if you don't understand some stuff, that would help us to give this this lecture with the information that you need. Big silence. Okay. Can I suggest that you go over this the practices, and then perhaps people will further try to debug their jobs and try to follow to finish the tutorial. And then before the end of the hour, we will see how we can do a Q&A on this and be more specific on the people's problem. So go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so if you remember nothing else from this entire day, please pay attention for the next 10 minutes or whatever, because this is really important stuff. And this is what often gets people into trouble. And by trouble, I mean also can affect what others are doing if you screw a machine up or something. So, okay. First and foremost, right? So you're making a new workflow. Maybe you're changing one you already have, updating a release or something. Or maybe you just haven't run anything in a few months and you're trying to come back to it. Don't assume that everything is going to just magically work as it did several months ago, right? Always send test jobs. Always, 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 right? Start with one test job. If that works, try to scale up to something smaller, like 10-ish, right? You make a workflow, and we've seen this time and time again. You make something, launch 10,000 jobs. Oh my God, they all failed. What happened? Oh, okay, well, I fixed it, I think. Launch 10,000 jobs again. Oh, they all failed. Then you're blocking 10,000 cores. And your collaborators can't do anything. And for no useful output. So always test. Always, always, always. Another important thing, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, right? About pre-staging input data sets. This also hurts a lot of people, especially on the efficiency side, right? Because like this job we did just now, we were only running one file and we knew it was staged, okay? But suppose you're running over an input data set, you forget to stage. Some of it might be on disk, still in cache. Some of them may need to be fetched from tape. So what is happening while your job is trying to run a file that needs to be fetched from tape is it's just sitting there waiting for I/O. And the tape fetching might only take a few minutes. It might take 10 minutes. It might take an hour. It might take 2 days. This all depends on how busy the tape system is at the moment, right? And remember, we are not the only users of it. We being DUNE. So always pre-stage first. This third point's a little bit obsolete, but since this is the default now, but I still see a lot of scripts where people are copying tarballs from places like Scratch. And I think we talked yesterday about how there's a finite number of connections that can be made simultaneously to each Dcache pool, and that's protocol dependent, right? So if it's X or D, maybe you can do a couple of thousand, but if you're copying the whole file, like with grid FTP, it's much lower, 20 or 30 maybe. All of your jobs trying to hit that same file at once, those transfers are going to queue up, and then your jobs are just going to sit there and have zero efficiency and block slots. Okay, same story we just heard, right? But that's much more efficient with the new way of staging things through CVMFS. Okay. All right, so now sometimes maybe the file doesn't or can't, for whatever reason, go in a tar file, but you still have a lot of jobs can access it. In that case, it may make sense to put it temporarily in a place in resilient Dcache. We have to do this a little bit with the one particular Monte Carlo workflow in production. But again, remember to remove such files when you're done. And yes, they do get removed automatically after 45 days. That means does not mean, sorry, oh, well, it's going to get removed 45 days. I'm just going to leave it there. Every file that's in resilient takes space from the shared read-write cache, and it's that much more that can't be retained in disk, leading to the need to do that much more pre-staging, that many more files get flushed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so if you've got files from resilient, you're done, remove them. Don't just wait for them to go away for you. Okay, other thing, as we'll find, we were copying just now, right, in our tests to just our top level user directory PNFS DUNE Scratch users, right? Be careful, be very careful with placing too many files in any single directory inside Dcache. That goes for all types. So, because I think we talked a little about this yesterday, right? Remember that behind Dcache, there's actually this database, right, which keeps track of where all the files are. And the more files you have in a directory, it puts that much more load on the database. Even things like LSing the directory in question can get very, very slow. So, and then that can cascade, and especially if you're doing this, trying to do LS and stuff over NFS, this can really, really screw things up. So again, there's no necessarily hard exact limit that this number is okay and not a single one more, but aim typically for something like a few thousand. So for example, as we were naming the files, right, with cluster and process, using those as part of our output file names, if we had a cluster of, say, 1,000 jobs, let's say we had a couple of clusters with 1,000 jobs each, a sensible thing to do might be to create separate output directories for each cluster, right? And then the jobs from each set of 1,000 would copy to their own directory. And then that way we don't overload things as much. Does that make sense? Okay, other things we see in grid jobs, which are no-nos that work okay interactively, but are very bad in grid jobs. And I learned this the hard way.
There is a question that mentioned RCDS, so I may ask it right now. If you scroll down, it's at the very end. I'm highlighting it, so that's this one.
Okay, so for tarballs and things, yes, do not use persistent, do not use resilient. I'm talking about if there are files that for some reason can't go in tarballs, and you have a lot of jobs need to access them, because see, persistent will have the same problem as Scratch does about where you will hit the concurrent connection limit if you're trying to copy. Resilient gets around this by replicating each file 20 times. So if you've got thousands of jobs trying to get this file, the load is spread over these 20 copies, right? Downside of that is, if your file is a gig, it actually takes up 20 gigs of space in cache, right? So definitely use it sparingly, but there may be some times that you want to do that. But yeah, I would say things, especially with larger files, they're kind of bigger root file. Or the other thing, which is even better, is to put them in stash cache, especially if they're going to be reused. And you access with DUNE OSG storage org. That's really the best thing. Now, if it's kind of a one-off or something, then we can talk. But
Okay, great. I can't really type at the same speed of what you say,
yeah.
but if later you could just go over the little notes that I wrote, so that would be great. By the way, I take the opportunity to announce that all of the questions that you are asking, we'll just group them all together into a Q&A after the tutorial. So they won't be lost, and then the answer will be published. So thanks.
Yeah, I'm just gonna write a. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Right.
On top, someone is asking if I want to use my own input data file. Should I submit it together with the table or put it in a grid accessible storage and access it by using its root or X root?
I kind of like what did Kirby? Yeah, I kind of like Kirby's solution. The only exception I might make, if this file is reasonable-ish size, megabytes, let's say, you could imagine a situation, and if you're going to read the whole thing, as opposed to just a part of it, right? You could make an argument that it makes sense to put in a tar file if you're doing the tar file through CVMFS, because then it's only copied once to each worker node, right? And it can be reused. But you definitely don't want to put it in something that gets copied to every single job. Does that make sense? Like don't use -f, for example. That's kind of the worst way to do it. But if your tar file is in CVMFS and it's not, or sorry, if you're staging your tar file through CVMFS, now the default, as we discussed, might be okay. Otherwise, yes, put it in the usual grid accessible storage and do the usual X-root-D thing. Also, do the X-root-D to stream if you are not reading the entire file. Okay. So yeah, in general, there are, what was I say? When in doubt, use the grid accessible storage, and when in doubt, do not use resilient. Or the best thing is to ask if you're not sure. Let's see. So other things, we saw a couple of examples where you can do IFDH LS, and that will let you look inside PNFS from a remote worker node, right? So very useful thing, but we need to be a little careful with it. In particular, don't put paths with wildcards. You can kind of get away with it on the DUNE GPVM machines because PNFS is mounted over NFS, as we know. And that kind of helps with this sort of thing. But if you are doing it from a grid job where it's not mounted, which is the case on all worker nodes, putting these wildcards requires it to search the entire directory tree recursively and do a matching thing, and it is significantly slower. You get a couple hundred jobs trying to do this, you can grind things to a halt with all of Dcache, and that's bad. So if you can at all avoid that, don't do it. The better way is, for example, if you're gonna have multiple paths, rather than do the store, just take this and parse the output in your script. So wildcards, bad. This isn't really a grid job thing, but I just want to remind you, if you're opening, in particular, root files, don't open them over NFS. And I think we went over that yesterday. I won't dwell on that, but just want to remind you. Also, we discussed resilient. Never, ever, 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 ever put outputs in resilient, ever. And just a reminder, if we find something that is clearly output, it may be deleted without warning. I don't know that it will be, but consider this your warning. And so no complaints if that happens. Just remember, every output you write there is really taking 20 times that on physical disk. Also kind of more of an interactive thing, but highly interrelated to this. We have seen this several times. So people need to merge files. Okay, I get it. I have to do it too. HAD is of course popular, and it's very easy to do HAD, some output, PNFS, DUNE, whatever, PNFS, DUNE, whatever. Never, ever, 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 ever do that where you have just the bare PNFS path like this. Never, ever, ever, no exceptions. Yeah, all you need to do is just transform these paths to the XRD URIs, and then it should be fine. XRD is much more stable, this kind of thing. Multiple times this has screwed up the NFS mounts on the DUNE GPBN machines, and then they have to be rebooted. So if you've ever logged in and said, oh, this DUNE GPBN machine is horribly slow, I can't do anything. It may well be that it was something like this. So never, 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 never. Okay, otherwise, and the next part will be on POMs, but I think we're stopping here for questions and whatnot.
Yeah, that would be good to stop for questions, because I have the feeling that maybe some people are stuck and they don't get there to say where they are at. So perhaps we will do some questions, but what would be good to know if can I have some thumbs up among the participants if you manage to successfully submit, let's say, one job, if this worked for you.
Okay.
Did the setup. So we'll see a bit where people are, and then try to gauge on part.
We should just be able to look at JobTip server and see who's got jobs in. Right?
Yeah.
I see
back over here.
Three people who managed to submit some jobs. That's good.
Let's see.
Okay, the thumbs up. The thumbs up are not staying long, so that's. Then regarding the others, can we know where you are, what kind of issues you have, if you still understand, or if there's some stuff that are very confusing, it would be really great to know where is the culprit, so then we can in the remaining 11 minutes that we have, do not worry about the end of Ken's lecture. This will be covered tomorrow, so we have margin for this. Are people having still some questions or big points that we would like Ken to go over again? And if not, can we see your screen, Yeah.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Make sure I got the meeting cancellation.
Yeah. Okay.
There was nothing.
You can
nothing
stop.
bad there. Don't worry.
Okay. Great. So there are still some questions on the live doc, so let's go over those. And there are quite some work there. And thank you again for asking a question on the live docs. If you scroll up a bit yeah, exactly here, I am highlighting it. So how to run a customized fickle file without using a tarball, assuming I only modified a fickle file and did not modify any module.
Okay, so what I would do then in your script is just copy the fickle from wherever it lives in the release in CVMFS to the current work directory on the worker node. Make the edits. You can use sed or whatever you need to do in your script, and then you just run normally, because by default, fickle files in the current directory have top priority. So if you have multiple multiple fickles of the same name in different directories, it should pick up the current one first. That is configurable with what is it, FW search path or something, or fickle search path. There's an environment variable that sets the order where everything looks, and by default it is the current directory. Let's see here. I think I have DUNE TPC set up in this window. There's FW search path. Let's see. Must be called something else. I don't remember off the top of my head now. Uh-huh. Fickle file path. That's what it is. Here you go. Yeah, so see how current directory dot is first, then current directory / job, then DUNE TPC. So if you copy to the current directory, make your changes, and then run with that, it'll pick up your copy first. And that way, all you have to do is set up the release, run a clever copy the fickle, run a clever sed command or some such to change it, and off and running. Then you don't have to mess with tarballs and compiling and all that stuff. And of course, that only works for not compiled stuff, right? If you're changing the code, then rebuilding, then you have to get that in there too. Okay, what else? Other questions? Oh, that's, what is it?
Yeah, feel free to
fickle file. Yeah, let's cut and just get it right. It's case sensitive too, I suspect. So. What? Control C. It won't paste. Unbelievable.
Okay, great. Then we have the last question on that document is interesting as well. Can you give an example of using X4D to HAT 2 files the right way? I don't want to cause a severe problem. Okay, thanks for not wanting to cause a severe problem. It's at the end of this.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is before last question. Someone is asking.
Okay, so HAT. Well, actually, it doesn't even need to. I'm going to give you an example of at Fermilab, but this doesn't necessarily have to come from terminal Dcache, right? You could, in principle, do HAT from remote storage elements too this way. Nope. No. And I have no idea what text file gen does, sorry.
That would be great to detail in here for the person who asked the question. Okay, I want to mention in the minutes we have before the break and when Ken is writing some answer, we will polish these answers and then, as I said, put them in a place so that you can have a look at them. This tutorial requires definitely practice. If you haven't done the setup instructions, obviously this is not possible to practice in the live, but everything is written on the GitHub website of the training, so you can make sure you have the correct setup and then redo this tutorial at your own pace. Everything is written there. If you report some issues, please let us know. We created a Slack channel, which is perhaps your best bet because all of the experts are just monitoring it, and then we can answer your questions pretty fast. And of course, you will see that with time you will get used to submitting jobs and debugging your own jobs, errors, and so practice makes better. Any other question that you may have? And that can be also general questions before we take a break. And of course, I invite Ken, who is right now trying to reply to your questions on the live doc. I think this is good. Okay, let's see if you're still there. Do you like the live documents to ask questions anonymously? Any thumbs up on this? Or everyone is gone. Ah, thank you. Okay, yeah, they're always successful. So this is what we put a live doc, and then everything gets written, and we have a Q&A. Okay, thanks again for your participation on the live doc. This is appreciated. Okay.
So you know what I will do very quickly here. I will look. Come on. I will show you my output file. Or most recent one. So here are these things that I'm making. I think it's not really a histogram file, but who cares? It's a root tree. So if I wanted to check the outputs, who can show me what the best way to open this file is? Just type out. You have the path here. Let's do the most recent one, which would be this guy. How would I open this if I want to look around? Just post in the chat.
I don't see anything in the chat. Let's see, please. There are people having an idea. Yay.
Thank you, True. Yeah, so when I say open, I mean just open it in root and do the usual T browser or whatever. X root T is the correct answer. So root. Now, because it's P and FST in Scratch, I know it's FNTCA1. And you'll have this memorized in no time. You won't even realize it.
This was covered yesterday, but yeah.
Yeah. So then user DUNE, and then I just grab the rest of this. And the file name. Boom. Let's see what we've got. Okay. Okay, I have an event tree, I have a cluster tree.
Yeah,
There you
this
go.
arrow CD is the equivalent of CD, but the root version. Like I'm commenting on your root command number.
Oh, yeah.
This cluster Anna is a directory, and you can see it. Can you highlight T directory file so that this gives you what kind of objects we have, and then we take the object cluster Anna and then arrow CD to be able to go in it. And .ls is also the root way to observe and to list all of the elements into a directory. So here we have our trees, even tree, cluster tree, 2 trees. Okay.
What else? Are there any other questions? So, okay, on the last one, because I don't know what goes in that text file. One option would be to copy it in manually, and you now assuming these files aren't that big, right? Could place it in a little tar file. Alternatively, you could have something in your script that just generates it on the fly. It's going to do the like cat bracket EOF, and then you just dump the stuff you want in there, and then your script would just make it. That's another option. Depending on what you're doing, that might be easier.
Each job might want a different one because it's generator input.
Right. Yeah. So then you could take have the script take an argument or something. Right. So yeah, I'd say a couple ways to do that.
Okay, great. I think the questions that are not responded, we will do this offline and very soon. Thank you, Kane, for giving us a tour on the complicated business that is to submit jobs. It's a lot of information. It's not easy. So if you're confused, it's normal. This is what I say to my student. Confusion is the sweat of learning. So if you're confused, it means that you will learn very soon once you get over your confusions. Okay, great.
Yes. I can do it. You can do it.
Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, this takes time. The practice, go over this tutorial. The website is supposed to be self-sufficient for you to really redo all of the comments. Let's say if you are stuck and at some point you get unstuck, you can continue and finish everything. And right now we're going to take a break, a deserved break, right? And the break is for you to relax, obviously, for all of the lectures and live doc answers to also relax and so, but we want to give you again the possibility to know each other, to talk to each other. And for this, I'm going to create some breakout rooms where you can socialize with some people. So I will do 4 to 5 participants in the breakout rooms, and then please go back. We'll close the breakout rooms 1 minute before 30 past the hours to do the quiz of who wants to be a grid job master, okay? And see you there in 26 minutes from now. Enjoy the break.